Hello everybody out there on the slot car internet. Today I'm going to do a video on how to take a body that's say for a clip-on type car like an AFX or a Tyco or whatever, and post it so that you can mount it onto a T-Jet. And so basically this is an example of one that I've done in the past. It's an old AFX body, or I guess it's Johnny Lightning or whatever you want to call it. This is a old pullback body, but it's set up to mount to a T-Jet, as you can see here. And I'll go ahead and pull the body off, pulling the right screwdriver, of course. Kind of show you what it looks like underneath. And this is the way I like to do them. There's lots of ways of doing these, but so what I've done is I've mounted a couple pieces of styrene plastic here. One to the hood, super glued on there, and then one on the back, similarly super glued in to hold the rear screw. And you can see it's a clip-on type body, but of course I'm not using the clips anymore. I'm just using these screws to hold the body on. So what I have is a candidate to mount that way. It's a Tyco Dodge Stealth. I just got this as a throw-in on some stuff I bought. I looked at that. That might make a kind of a cool body to mount up. So what you got to do is, there's a lot of steps to this process, as you can imagine. First of all, when I set it on there, you can see the wheelbase is right. Put that light in there, it might even work better. Yeah, you see the wheelbase is right, but of course the wheels and tires are all goofy, and if you just mounted it like that, it would look really dumb. So what I'm going to do is, slam this thing down. I'll probably end up cutting this whole rocker panel off on the bottom. Sorry, the whole rocker panel comes off. I might even grind into the bottom of the door a little bit to make this thing look right. And in doing so, I might be chopping a little bit off that side of the front bumper too. We'll see how it goes. But you want it to sit nice and low like this other one does. You see how nice and low that sits. It looks kind of cool that way. So that's kind of what we're after. So I guess the first step in the process after you've I took the windshield out already. I won't bore you with the details of how that was fun to get out. But basically, you're going to set this thing in there and get things lined up. So this is kind of the first step. Kind of get things lined up and figure out where you might want to put your screws in the front and the back. So you want to kind of line up the wheels, with the wheel wells, and then I come along with a pencil here, and I'm going to come in and mark where the front of the chassis is relative to the inside of the body here, and then similarly I'm going to go to the back and mark with a pencil where the back of the chassis sits. Throw a center line in there or something like that. And so that's kind of marking. So the front of the chassis is up here, the back of the chassis is here, and I want to line up something. So I'm going to have to glue in some styrene posts like I got here. I've got some styrene. I'll get to that in a second. And you got to figure out where it's all going to go. Then you got to grind it to fit, and then glue it all in. So a lot of steps to the process, but that's kind of the start. The material I'm going to use for my posts is this strip styrene I got at the local hobby shop. I got a pack of this stuff. It's 5 strips that are foot long, 1/8 inch by 1/4. So, obviously that's enough to make about 1 million bodies. But I've made quite a few of these, and I use this stuff for other things once in a while too. So basically what it looks like is a smaller piece of it. You can see if it'll focus here, yeah, it's about 1/8 inch wide, 1/4 inch tall. And I've used this before, so I've chopped it off. You can see here there's a little bit of an angle on this side. I think I'm going to take advantage of that here. This side is kind of squarish. So I think the angle piece might work really good in the front, because the inside of the hood is angled just a bit. So if you put this in here like that, that would be kind of going straight up and down, which is kind of nice, I guess. Basically, you want this contour of the surface here at the edge where you're going to glue it in. You want it to match. So if it's got a rounded radius to it, or flat or whatever, you want it to match, so the glue is going to hold really nice. So pretty simple, straightforward stuff here. And so what I want to do is I need to cut some pieces out of this. I don't need it that long. Obviously, that's a little long for a screw post, so it's only going to be sticking up a little bit here. So what I'm going to do, I think, is pretty straightforward. Get my pair of dikes and just cut it off here and make it plenty long. We're going to cut this off and grind it down to what we need it to be. So I'm going to make it plenty long here to make sure that I got plenty of material to work with. So I just cut that off. Other side, I'm going to use this end too. Just cut it off there. Not too worried about how rough that edge looks from the dikes. I'm going to grind that off anyway. So I'll come back in here. I got a sanding block here. Since these are actually in pretty good shape already, you don't need much, but you want to, this is, I don't know, like 240 grit or something like that I glued to a steel block, but any old thing will work. Or just regular sandpaper on a table, just, you want to get this thing. And this material is pretty soft. You can see it's already sanding and taking material off. And I don't have to do a whole heck of a lot here to get this flat. So I want to get that just kind of flattish. And then this other piece I just made, here it is. It's that little angle piece. Let's get it on here and make sure that it's pretty flat. Yeah, you want it to go on nice and square and everything, not at some weird angle. So this I'm going to glue here in the front, like that. Oops, there it is. I'm going to glue that in the front. If I can get my fingers out of the way. You kind of see that's going to glue in there. Line it up with my mark. And in the back, I got this other piece, and that's going to glue in, say right about there, in the back there, where the mark was. In the back of this body, it'll be kind of hard to see in the video, but there's a lip here. It looks like there's a little raised lip. I'm going to have to grind this off with my Moto tool to make a nice one uniform surface instead of, or I guess I could get in here and grind a little chunk out of my piece of plastic in order to make it mate that, but I don't think I want to do that. I'm just going to make this flat, and then it's going to glue together really nicely. So I'll get to that in just a second. Okay, I've used my trusty Dremel tool that has a burr bit on it here. It's nice for grinding big things. And I ground that little bitty lip out of the back. So it's basically a flat surface here. I also roughed it up a little bit with a little piece of sandpaper just to make sure that I've got a nice, clean, decent surface for the glue to adhere to in the front and the back. By the way, it's nice to have some burr bits. This is a nice, I don't know what they call this, like an inverted pear burr bit. I use this one a lot for grinding bodies down and lightening them up. I got a whole bunch of these things like here. I use a lot of these for different things. That's a little saw blade thing. That probably is going to get used somewhere along the line here. This one is definitely going to get used. This is another burr with a flat top on it. That's super handy for finishing the height of these posts. Here's another, I think this one's called a flame. That's used quite a bit. Then these other ones I don't use very much, like this little cone thing, and this little egg bit I use once in a while anyway. Anyway, let's get that out of the way for now. So what I've got here is I got the body ready. I got my posts ready to go. I got the surface. Oops, I got the surfaces of the posts kind of set up, and I've got some super glue here. This is I think it's called medium. It's gap filling medium super glue. You can get that at your local hobby shop. And I'm going to put a little bit in my bottle cap here. Just a little bit of glue in there just to have it handy. And then I've also got some Instaset in a little squeeze bottle here. We're going to use that to finish the solidification of the glue because I'm super impatient. So anyway, so taking the front post, and I'm just going to dip it in the glue here. So it's dipped in the glue, and then so I got a little glue on the end. I'm just going to set it in here about where I want it to be. And then I'm going to measure, make sure I got this right. I got a caliper here, and I'm going to kind of measure to make sure I kind of got this thing centered pretty well. I can trust my eyeballs pretty good, but every once in a while I'm a little bit off. And yeah, it looks like I need to move to this side just a little. So I'm going to break that loose just a little and set it there. I'm going to try this again. Let's see how I did. Oops, 566. And yep, that's about right. So my glue's kind of gone to heck, but that's okay, never fear. Get a little more glue here off my toothpick and just set it in there. Set some glue in there. And I'll build this up later to get it better. Oh, I need to make sure it's straight too. That clearly isn't straight, so I'll move it to straighten it out. So there you got a post glued in. And I'm just gonna hit it with the zapper real quick here to make sure it's gonna stay there. Okay, and similarly on the back post. Got my post ready. I'm just gonna dip it in the glue. And just set it in here where I want it to be. See if it'll cooperate. Just kind of eyeballing it in there to get it, trying to get it in the middle and straight. It's a bit of a, when it doesn't stay on, it's really frustrating. So that didn't stay, so put it there again. Try to get it straight. That looks pretty well centered. There's a couple little tabs in the back there. Makes it kind of pretty easy to center it, but I'm going to go ahead and check my stuff here. It's 486 that way, 506 that way, so I can probably move it over just kind of lean it a little. There we go. So everything kind of lines up. And once again, I'll put a little more glue on my toothpick and kind of set it in here and make a little bit of a bead. I guess you can't see any of this. I'm putting a little bead around it with my toothpick. And then hit it with Hot Shot. By the way, this Hot Shot, I guess I call it Instaset. It's made by the same guys. You also get this at your hobby shop. I get the industrial size. I use a lot of this stuff, so I got the, I don't know, 8 ounces. This will last me a few years. You can get it in smaller quantities. Here's an old one that I just have laying around. It comes in a spray bottle too. It's kind of messy with the spray. It goes all over the place. That's why I like to put it in one of these little bitty squeeze bottles. So anyhow, that's that step, and we'll let that sit here for a little bit, and then come back with the next part. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce these posts now. And what I'm using for that is I'm gonna lay in some more super glue down here in these corners around the post, on both posts and around them and everything. And then I'm going to, while that super glue is still wet, I'm going to spoon in a little bit of this. This is baking soda, and that's just going to go in and soak up into that super glue and make it. It's going to be super hard material, like a fiberglass sort of thing. So it's real simple, and that'll reinforce these posts. So they're just going to be just about bulletproof. So I'm just going to come in here and just go ahead and loop in some super glue around the periphery here. Just put plenty of it in here. A little bead all the way around. Okay, got a little bead all the way around now. I don't know if that's focusing, but there it is. Okay, you can kind of see there's a bead there, and then I'm just gonna come along with some of this. You don't have to be super neat with this. Just dump it. Just dump it on there. We're just gonna let it fall where it falls, and then brush off the excess. I'm just using the back of a tweezer here to manipulate this stuff. So it looks like it just snowed inside the hood here, and just kind of come along and pat it down so it gets into the glue a little bit, and the glue soaks into it, and you can kind of push a little more onto it if you like. Just kind of scooping it in there. That gets you a nice little solid bead of material helping to hold this post in place. Just dump that back in there. And I'll do the back one too, just for grins and giggles here, just to show you. And the back one's a little, this post is a little bit cantilevered. You can kind of see it's just sort of hanging over the, I guess, the back of the window. That's the best you could do here. You know, it's just, it's where the window's going to be. And so it's not going to get 100% full contact all the way around. It's just going to be covering the sides and the back. So once again, just ladle this junk in there. It can be kind of messy. Just dump it in. And just kind of poke around a little bit, and it'll soak in pretty quick. And it hardens almost immediately as that super glue just soaks into that powder and fills all the gaps. And like I said, it's real hard material now. It's going to be real solid, and hopefully that's good enough for any accidents this car might have, or dropping it on the floor or whatever, so it doesn't bust the posts off. That's a good way to end your race in a real frustrating way. So we don't want that to happen. So once you get it all done, kind of look in there, you can see there's a pretty decent fillet, I guess you can call it, of the super glue and baking powder in there, or baking soda, I should say. Or baking powder works too. Probably any kind of powdered material would work. Baking soda is really cheap and prevalent, so that's what I use. All right, so now we've got the body with the posts in it, and I'm putting the chassis back in here, and we see a few things. First of all, the chassis is hitting the front of this rear post, so it's not letting the body sit properly. So you can see the wheel, you know, it's jacked up big time, obviously. So we're going to be chopping these posts down in a big way here in a little bit. But first of all, we've got to have room for the chassis to actually sit in there. So I'm going to have to grind a little off the front of this back post. That's okay. That's why it's so long. There's plenty of room to work with these things. And then in the front, we see that I kind of want the chassis to line up right with the front of this front post. Excuse me. But the axle's getting in the way, obviously, so I'm going to have to cut, you know, something quite a bit out of this so it'll clear the front axle, so I can get a screw in here. So I'm going to be chopping something out of that with my trusty Dremel grinder here. So first I'm going to do the back post and make a little bit of room for me. So back to this guy. This is my inverse. You can use almost any burr bit for this. This one's on me already, so it works pretty good. So hopefully you can hear me while I'm doing this. I'm going to make a little bit of racket. I'm going to chop this thing up a little. Keep lining off. Trying to get close a bit. All right, get that rubbish off of there. Let's see how I did. That's a little better centered. It's pushing all the way back, and I still think I need a little bit more, so I like to have a little bit of free float in there, so let's take a little more off. That should do the trick for the back one. I'll clean this up a little better after the video, but this stuff goes everywhere, of course, so it's a big mess. So, yeah, that's looking about right. That looks centered. You know, if it isn't quite right, I'll just cut a little more off. It's fine. It's kind of an iterative process here. But it's really going to sit. Yeah, it's going to sit about there. So when I look at this, it looks like I put my front post is up a little far, but that's fine too. It doesn't really matter. So we got to keep that in mind. I just need to cut off enough of the front post so I can clear that front axle. So let's go in and do, let's try this again. Let's go in and do that. Sorry, I dropped you there. I'm going to cut a little off the stack, back of the front post. Just start in there and see what I got. Oops. I can force it in there, so it's pretty close now. So that's kind of about, looks like I need to go forward for sure. You know, the other thing is the wheelbase on the body doesn't perfectly match the wheelbase on the chassis, as you can kind of tell here. So I'm going to have to kind of center things up a little bit to, you know, make it look as good as I possibly can. So I need to take a little more off this front post. All right, it's cleaned up reasonably well. And okay, now it just drops in, but doesn't really have any float. So I need to give it a little bit of float. Looks like everything's in about the right spot. I think I'm going to take just a little more off of both the posts, off the front and back posts, and we'll come back with the next video and show you that. All right, as we saw there, the posts on the body, as they are right now, are way too long. We're going to have to cut them down. So what I've got here to do this in a neat, tidy way is on my Dremel. They make this routing bit, routing head that mounts on there for routing. You know, if you run a route of table out or something, I don't know what you might do with this thing, but and to the top of that, I've glued a clear piece of plexiglass, and then run the bit through. See, I'm using that square top. Come on, focus. Square top burr bit, and it's going to come in handy for this particular task. It's kind of what I use it for exclusively. And then this thing can be adjusted height-wise, so I'll show you that. I can here. Hopefully this stays. Okay, good. And there's a the thing comes with a little thumb screw here, but that broke off a long time ago, so I've replaced it with a screw, an actual screw, and then you can loosen this thing and then slide the head up and down to some degree, and make adjustments for how far this is sticking out. You see it, that's there. So you kind of find where you want to be and then tighten the screw down, and then you kind of look at where you're at. How much am I going to cut off of this thing? Looks like I can go a little deeper here as a first cut. Now you don't want to take too much off the post at any given time. You might see what happens here. It kind of, when that burr bit hits that post, it's going to try to rip it out of your hand. So you got to kind of, go real slow here and steady, and don't use high speed or anything. Just kind of take it easy, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm going to take, looks like I'm taking about a 1/16 of an inch off of this post here, which isn't enough, but it's going to be a start. Turn on the Dremel, and then you can hold the body so these rocker panels are nice and solid on the plexiglass surface, and just push it into the bit. And there you see that's a nice clean cut on the top of the post. Now you don't have to do it this way. This is just a simple way of doing it. Of course you got to invest a little money. I think this routing head costs $10 or $15, and then a piece of plexiglass, or really, it doesn't have to be clear even. It could be any piece of plastic or something that's reasonably flat, and you can glue that on the top and work with it that way. And this whole thing just unscrews right off the top of the Dremel. So got to have the right kind of Dremel, one that's got one of these removable bezel pieces. So mine's an 80, what the heck was that? It's an 8220, but there's a lot of different Dremels like that. So And similarly, I'm going to go ahead and cut a little off the front. Now, if I use that same setting, that might be too much. That's cutting a hell of a lot off that post. So I'm gonna back this sucker off quite a bit and take just a little off. Once again, sneaking up on it. I'm in no rush here. I might take multiple. I think I'll take multiple cuts to get at this. So I'm sure this is plenty good. I'll have plenty to go, but at least this will flatten it off. And thankfully the furnace just turned off, so maybe you can hear me now. So here we go. I'm gonna cut that front post. So I take it slow. I almost went too fast there and kind of ripped it out of the hand. So take it slow. It's a real aggressive cutter. All cleaned up. So there we have it. And so those surfaces are nice and flat and parallel to the bottom of the rocker panels, which is, I guess, useful. So now we see where we're at. And look at that. At least it's getting reasonably close. So it's still way too high, but hey, it's getting there. So I'm going to keep whittling away at it. I got a long way to go. It looks like I got at least, I'm just looking down the barrel of the body here. It looks like it's probably got, man, it's over a 1/16 of an inch here in the front before the front of the gear plate is actually going to hit these two little tabs. And I'm probably going to remove these tabs too to get it even lower than that. But and then in the rear, it's just going to kind of follow along and make it so that the body's kind of parallel front to back. So that's kind of how it works. I'm going to keep at it here and do a few more cuts, and then we'll look at it some more. All right, as we can see here, I've cut this thing down to pretty close to where I need it to be. It's probably still got a little ways to go, but I want to stop here and take a look. So if I put the chassis in here now, still got a little bit of front to back rock, so that's working out just fine. If you look at the wheel wells, you can kind of see they're kind of in the right ballpark, and centered up pretty good, about as good as I can get with this thing. I still want to go a little lower. So basically the front of the chassis is now, it's actually sitting on these two tabs here. There's a little tab. These were to hold the old windshield in. I think I'm going to whittle those down a little bit and see where that sets me. And I can go a lot lower in the back, but I do want it to sit, parallel front to back, not dragging the tail too badly. Also, if you look really close, if I can get this thing orientated right, you can kind of look at that and see that really the front and rear wheels are both going to be above the rocker panels as you look at it there. So I'm going to take off. I'm probably just going to go ahead and just eventually just grind off all this right here. This whole area here is going to just go away, but maybe not quite all of it. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of hard to say at this point. So what I'm going to do now, I guess the next step, I'm going to drill holes for the screws in the front and the back. So usually I start on the back one. And what I'm going to do is take my pencil here and kind of mark that slot in the back of the chassis. It's kind of hard to see here. Oh yeah, there's better light. So I'm going to mark this. I'm going to come along with my pencil and kind of set that up in there. I've got the wheels centered as best I figure I can get, so you can kind of see where that goes. So I don't want the screw hole, obviously I don't want it too far up. It's going to run right into this. So I'm going to put a screw hole back here someplace, so it's going to engage the back of the chassis just to hold it in position. So like a screw hole, the screw would go like right about there. Okay, so I'm going to do that one first. And once I get that in, then I'm going to mark the front and drill that hole too. So this is one at a time. So to drill the holes, I've got a pin vise. This material's fairly soft. You can just drill it by hand. That's a, if you get a focus here, that's a 16th inch, 0.0625 diameter drill bit in a pin vise. So just kind of figure out where you want to put your hole and start drilling. So here I go. It's really hard to do this with the camera as it is. So I'm just gonna,
I'm just going to get it started. Start real slow at first, and then you can start applying some pressure to it. You see it's starting to raise a little chip of the plastic. And then, you know, check side to side once in a while. Make sure you're actually, so I'm looking straight down the barrel of this thing. You know, you're not, you know, I'm looking at it like this. Looking straight down to make sure I'm square, you know, not drilling at some weird angle. And then I'm going to look at it this way every once in a while, make sure I'm, you know, not going like this or not going like this. Unfortunately, I don't really have a jig for this, so it's just sort of eyeballing it. You can kind of see, now it's a little hard to tell, but maybe you can see this. There's a little dimple right there. Where I just put my pencil mark. That's a little dimple. That's where I'm getting started. So I'm just going to keep on a drill in here. And I'm applying some pretty decent pressure now. You know, you don't overdo it, break the body or anything, but just kind of keep at it. It takes a little while. That's all right. All these things, all good things take time. So, and every once in a while, pull a bit, get the chips off. Once you start getting down a hole, those chips tend to clog up the drill bit, and so you don't want to just keep going at it. You definitely don't want to do this with a moto tool or a drill or anything like that. It's gonna cause you some problems. You know, it just doesn't take anything to make a big mistake. So I like to just go at this by hand. Just take your time. So I'm getting some depth now. I'm probably 1/16 inch deep. I'm going to keep going on this, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, I've got the rear hole drilled out, and so you can kind of look at it when you got your drill in there. So it's I don't know, 3/16 deep or something like that, give or take. This one doesn't have to be super deep. You never have to put the back screw in all the way, so you don't have to go crazy here. But you can see kind of how it's sitting. So this, when you got it going, you can take a look at it, and you know, and make sure you're looking square here. So it looks pretty square, doesn't it? So you can look at it this way. Looks pretty square. I think that's about right. It's close enough for my purposes here. So next thing would be to put your screw in. This is a 172, a 1-72 flathead screw like we use on fray bodies. This works great with these, with that hole in this material. It's a little snug the first couple times you put it in. That's okay. So got my screw in there. I can put my chassis back on and kind of look at it. So everything's centered up. Take a look. Make sure, you know, if this wheel was sticking way out, it's like, oh crap, I put the hole in the wrong place, you know, or if the whole post was missing, or you know, in the wrong position. So you know, this is really a good tell-all. All right, look at that. I got it centered really nice. Wheels are centered up right there with the body and all. So setting it on like that, you can see I got a little bit of front to back rock. So I'm going to get my wheel wells in the right axial position where I want them to be. And then I'm going to mark with my pencil. Get in here and mark a hole location with my pencil. And that's where I'm going to drill my hole. So you can pull that off, and okay, and there's where I put it. Now that's probably a little off center, but actually it's the right distance this way, going front and back. It's just a little off on the side. I'm going to take a quick look at it and see what I feel about that. Yeah, it's a little off. So I'm actually gonna shoot for right about there. I'll put a little mark there. That's where I'm gonna actually try to drill my hole. So get in, same deal on the front. You know, you wanna, it's a little more important on the front that you got to get it really nice and square as you can get it. Because that's really going to be holding the body on. So if this is coming off at some weird angle, it's going to cock the body and be difficult to tighten to get the right tightness. So, you know, you never want to tighten your screw all the way. you want to have it so it's on there and the body kind of floats nice, and then that's good for handling and general appearance too, by the way. So I get in here and locate that point and start drilling my hole. Make sure I'm doing this right. It looks pretty good. Looking pretty square. I get my start. Take a look at where I'm at. Oh yeah, that's pretty much exactly where I wanted to be. So it's drilling a hole in the middle of the post, and I'm going to keep on going with that. And I'll do that, and I'll show you what I have. Okay, I've got my hole drilled here in the front, and just looking at it. If you look at it from the side, you can see it's pretty square relative to the bottom of the chassis. I'm sorry, right at the bottom of the body. You look at it from the front, it's pretty square. It's sitting on there pretty good, so I'm happy with that. And it's deep enough for my screw, so off we go. So I'm going to put the chassis in here. If I put this a little bit to get it in. Gets a little tight. That's okay. There we go. Got it nice and a little floaty. Actually, it's so put it on there a little too tight. Back it off a little. There we go. Actually, it's a little too far still. Okay, that's pretty good. All right. So here you go. We got the body on. Look at it from the top or the side. You know, it looks pretty good. I think I might have got the hole a little bit that way, a little bit too far, but it's sort of like the wheel sticking out a little bit on the one side, not so much on the other. Wow, it's really close. When I look at it on here, it's pretty close. So, of course, one thing you're going to notice is you know, I put the front screw on pretty tight. Not fully tight, though. There's some float there, but obviously, you know, the front wheels are off the track. Back wheels aren't off the track, but that's just because the screws are really loose in the back. So if you really put it on this way and just put it down to the body, you can... Oh, actually, let's go the other way here. Go to the back of the chassis. All right, back of the board. You can see there's air under the rear tires too. So I'm going to have to grind this this body down so I have some clearance. It looks like quite a bit, as a matter of fact. Just it's a rough ballpark kind of thing. It's almost, that's an 063 axle here. It's getting pretty tight. So yeah, it's probably close to 60 thou on the front of this thing. Maybe not so much out of the back. I'm gonna do a little work on that and sand it down. And I'll kind of show you how I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that work on the camera because it's gonna get a little boring and messy. But here's my sanding block you saw before when I was doing those posts, and you can just kind of put the body on here and go back and forth with it this way. It makes a horrible racket when you do that. Or you can kind of go back and forth this way, and then you got to clean your sandpaper off once in a while because it'll clog up with the plastic. Just kind of go at it that way. Or if you lack patience, you can use your moto tool, you know, and maybe go really aggressive and start hacking it with the saw blade on the side. You know, just kind of just take it straight down. I'm not sure. I was saying before that I maybe would take it all the way down to this line. I know it seems like an awful lot at this point, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see how it goes. I'll show you at the end of that work, and then also I'm going to. I think I mentioned this before. Right now the chassis sitting on these two little posts here. That's touching the front of the top plate. I think it's, you know, those are touching like right here and right here. I think I'm going to take these down. I might just take them off entirely, and so the front of the top plate would just be resting right on this surface here, and that'd be nice, and it'll be nice and low. Of course, if that gets it a little too low, then I'll just shave a little off the front post. And I'm not 100% convinced I like exactly where this is right now. It's kind of an iterative process, so I'm gonna mount everything up, see what it looks like. I may take these posts down a little further, and obviously work these rocker panels down to where I want them to be. So it has to clear the track. It don't need it to clear the track by a bunch, but it does need to clear the track. So that's important. So off we go. All right, so I did a lot of lowering or removing material off the bottom, and I did some lowering of the post as well. So you can see here, I've taken the front all the way down to the bottom of the door. To the back, there's a little material left. I mean, I could take more out of the back, but it kind of looked good this way, so I'm going to leave it be. I also had to take a little off the front bumper, because what I ended up doing underneath here to take those little raised portions out, I went back and used this guy. I had it set up for the right height. I just went back and skimmed under the hood here. So if you look real close, hopefully you can see this. It looks like I've just barely removed material here, skimmed all this thing to a common plane, and then the top plate of the chassis right in the front of the top plate rides right on that. So when you put it all together, it sits pretty good. So let's get the screw in here. Almost there. Okay, close enough. All right. So you can kind of see how low that sits. So it's kind of hard to line up, but it is clearing. Yeah, put it on a block. Maybe this looks a little better. You can see light under it. It's clearing the track in the front. It's clearing the rails, not by a hell of a lot. I might go back and skim just a little more off just for safety purposes, but actually it does clear the track, and even it doesn't rock enough, since it's actually running on top here. It doesn't really rock per se. It just kind of skates and slides back and forth a little. So I took a little bit off the front post and a little bit off the rear post, and obviously I sanded the heck out of it, and going back and forth on the block here. And it took a while, made a big mess. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it sits and how it looks. So I think that's going to be race worthy. I got to, the next step I'm not going to show on the video because it's really not part of the video. But I got to put this windshield back in. I think I'm gonna just cut out. We don't have to have side windows. I'm gonna remove the side windows. I might just try to glue the front and rear end independently. Cut this here just to remove the front, and cut it here to remove the back, and then just pop those right into position, tack them in with some super glue, and good to go. But I think that'll be a good race chassis. It's nice. It sits nice and low, and it's not super heavy or nothing. So I think it'll work out great, and it looks like a race car. So what the heck? Anyway, that's pretty much it. Hope you found that informative. I'll see you next time.